Alright, okay, so we're back now. It's a month after the PhD. I am fresh again. I feel relaxed. I feel like I'm ready to get back into work. That final year of that PhD was fucking brutal, I'm not gonna lie. Just a low underlying level of stress that never really goes away. And then towards the end of it, even though, you know, if you've seen my vlog that I did the final 2 weeks, I was calm about getting it done. But that stress is still there in the background, like building, and it can be rough. It can be a bit rough at times. I'm glad I got that out of the way. It took me a couple of weeks to recalibrate, and I went to go see my friends, get my mind off things, had a healthy amount of drinking, day drinking going on, but we're done with that now, so I'm back in the mix, looking to get back to work. Usually I'm on to the next thing, but I wanted to give myself a bit more time to plan it this time, you know? And the way I went about doing that was thinking a bit more like a step above, of like, how do I gear my whole routine towards the work I'm doing? And there are a few different things here. So firstly, is like the main routine of just getting my sleep back on track, making sure I go to bed at the right time, making sure I'm back and regular with gym and eating healthily, eating clean, getting a few more salads in here and there. On top of that then is three major things I want to discuss a bit more in this video, which is on picking the right problems, content creation, and making sure I'm showing the process as a kind of storytelling tool for myself, storytelling practice tool for myself, and then figuring out ways to fund myself outside of academia. I had a great time for the most part in academia, but there are some distinct issues around incentives and the low pay and the lack of proper supervision that I just don't fully agree with, as well as like journal publishing that I've talked about in one of my previous videos. I'm not a big fan of all of that, and I really want to have an impact in the world. It's hard to have an impact in academia. Basic research, wacky ideas, academia, great for that. Don't get me wrong, right? I had a few of my own wacky ideas. Academia was the right vehicle for that then. But if I really want to have an impact on patients' lives, either I become a doctor, which I don't want to do, or I become an entrepreneur, go into industry, essentially, or like, you know, basically join an early stage company. And those are the ways of going about it. And so that's what I'm leaning towards. Not even leaning towards, that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I'm going to go into today, starting off firstly with the problem selection element of this, right? So with other problems that I've done on science, I've always kind of just gone into them based on my interest and whatever, but I haven't really thought about the impact that they would have. I read a paper recently on this by a professor at Stanford called Michael Fishback, and he was talking about how you should look at like two axes, right? The likelihood of success and then how much impact you're going to have. And really you want to find things that are very likely to be successful and also very high impact. Usually, however, those things are low-hanging fruit, so they've already been picked off. But what you figure out is when you actually really like name and quantify the risk associated with different projects, there are certain projects that can be equal in terms of their impact, but actually have very different risk levels. And so I've been doing that a bit more concretely over the past few days of figuring out the next projects and science that I want to be doing that can like strike that right balance of being interesting for me, something that is doable with some practice and like, you know, pushing my skill set for sure, but still doable, and also has a good chance of impact. And I settled on problems around this space of omics data, so this is like biological data, clinical trials and making clinical trials more efficient. That's a big bottleneck in pharma and biotech today. And then also doing that on the computational side, which is my bread and butter. It's what I do on a day-to-day. It's the kind of science that I love doing. I think that's a really interesting niche, and it's also quite general if you apply it to different types of biological data, apply it to different companies, because at some point, if you want to get some validated technology in biotech, it's going to have to go through trials for the most part, right? Whether it's a biomarker, whether it's a wearable, whether it's a drug, it's probably going to have to go through trials. So if I can figure out tools like computational tools that help trials become more efficient, that's something that people might pay for. It might be something I could do as my own business. It might be something I can help other people out with their business as well, as more of a consultant role. So I settled on that. And just that process, I think, of like naming and quantifying risk, I think that's a very useful strategy for anyone, whatever walk of life you're in, not just in science, but like really thinking about what's the overall risk? How do I break that down into different sub-risks? What are the assumptions I'm making? How long do each of these things take to get done? Each of these like sub-problems with their risks associated with them, and how high is the risk? And once you do that for a few different projects, I think you really get a clear idea of what it is you actually want to work on that seems feasible. So yeah, that was the first thing. Then it was about the documentation of this, right? So I've tried my hand for the past few years in making content on science. It's tough. It's not easy because science is messy as fuck, and like getting that messiness out onto a nice little 5-10 minute YouTube vlog is not easy. But what I found would actually be like really well suited to my style is figuring out content that sits atop what I do already. So not having to do like extra work for content. I've done a few like storytelling videos. I did one recently on like Soviet genetics where I had to read the paper, then reread it a few times, make notes on it, go over those notes, create a script, blah, 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 and then like really fact checked everything to make sure it was sound. I don't want to keep doing that, man. Like it's too much work on top of actually doing science. I see this a lot as well with content creators. Like what they'll do is they'll start off with their own niche and then they'll like slowly pivot to being more of a content creator. And you know, the one example that comes to mind is Ali Abdaal, who was like a Cambridge doctor, made content on that, on like study tips and all that stuff, and then slowly pivoted towards being more of a productivity expert, and now is like a YouTube content guy, like full-time, runs his like creator academy and stuff like that. Like that's sick, by the way. Like more power to him. He found his passion, realized it wasn't being a doctor. My passion is doing science though. I'm a scientist first and foremost. That's what I love doing. I love reading papers. I love coding. I love talking to other people about science. And so for me, the YouTube channel is a vehicle for that. Now, as a result of that, that means obviously I'm not going to have like the biggest fan base ever, but I'm cool with that, man. Like when you really break it down into like the different parameters of what's important for content, right? You're thinking about like the range of topics you cover, the depth of content you go into, the regularity that you want to post at, the effort you want to give it, the length of content you want to do. Is it short form? Is it mid-range? Is it like long form? And then also, are you an audio person? Are you visual? Are you textual? I went through all of those and I thought about the work that I've done and what I find most engaging. And I really like visual content. I like the storytelling of just like being a person on a screen. Like it makes a lot more sense to me and it's easier for me to just be myself when I'm recording. I do like writing a lot, but I found that like my kind of bread and butter is more this kind of storytelling. I just like chatting to a camera, man. I like chatting, a bit of a yap on myself maybe. It really depends on your aims for the channel, right? Like for me, this channel is not about making as much money as possible and getting like the widest user base. It's to have an outlet for the work I'm doing to practice my storytelling skills and hopefully educate people in the process. It's never going to be some huge channel. You know what? I set myself a very like low anxiety bar of all I ever wanted from this shit was 1,000 subscribers and 500 views per video. That's it. I'm not trying to make money from this. I don't really want to do ads that badly. Like, sure, if I find a company that's really well aligned with my goals and like I believe in their product or I've used their product, then sure. But like it's not something I'm going out of my way to do. When I was learning a bit more about like how different content creators have gone about it, you see the amount of work that certain people put into like content creation. It is incredible, truly. Like it's inspiring. I was watching this technology podcast. It's a technology daily show called TBPN, and they recently got acquired by OpenAI within the last year. What they do is like a 3-hour daily show where they'll go over the recent news in tech and finance, and just learning about the process that the two hosts go through, Jordan and Geordie, and the amount of preparation they had into this. Like Jordan was a big YouTuber already before. Geordie had done a lot of like ad deals and partnerships on that side. And when they both joined forces for the Daily Show as the hosts, they already had a decade each of experience behind them. And then like the amount of prep that goes into their kind of content, what they'll usually do is either interviews with tech or finance people, or they'll like go over tweets that they've been reading and like go, what they said, one level deeper. And even to go just one level deeper for the audience than what the original tweet was, that takes so much work. They have this routine where they're in the gym just before, they'll be chatting to each other, like ideating so that they're ready to go, they're fresh to go when the show actually starts. And so the process of like how much prep goes into it was astounding to me. And it made me reflect a lot on like videos I've done. Like I mentioned that Soviet genetics video. It took me so much time to do. That was like me trying to tell a faithful scientific story. That was like a week of reading the paper, making notes, writing the script out, all of that, and then having to learn it. I really don't want to do that, man. I just want to relay the work I'm already doing and practice my like on the fly storytelling. Just like pick a camera up, record the work I've been reading today, the code I've been writing about, try and make it a bit more engaging, talk a bit of shit with you guys, and that's it, man. I'm good with that. That's all I've ever really wanted it to be. I'm not trying to make a huge channel, like I said. And so that was really, really insightful. They also had a few other things they were saying. There was a podcast I watched, I'll link it in the show notes. And they were talking about like how when they were crafting their strategy and their like aesthetic, they looked at different brands and how they did it. So their aesthetic is like some combination of ESPN's aesthetics, but kind of modified to be a bit more modern. and then add that with like F1 advertising kind of stuff. It was really interesting. And then on the media side, the way they were talking about different products that people have there, like there are certain people that are more in like the long form business, like maybe like the New York Times or something, and then you've got the breaking news kind of people, like, oh, there's this thing that just came in, we're about to relay it straight to you. And I thought from that, like, okay, what is the kind of product that I'm delivering here? It's some intersection of like lifestyle content, so it's like my life and what I'm doing, with a kind of breaking newsy element of I'm looking at kind of the frontier of research and relaying it. But I've thought a little bit deeper about it. I'm going like 1 to 2 levels deeper. Maybe I won't go as faithful to that Soviet genetics video. Like I'm not going to tell you the entire story, like all the depth in. I still want to get it out to a bit more of a lay audience. But yeah, a couple levels deeper, somewhat of like a breaking news-ish element, maybe like a little bit of a delay in that. Like I'm not going to give you like the news as it comes out on Twitter, but you might get it a week or 2 later. That kind of vibe I think is really interesting. And to anyone else thinking of starting their media channel or YouTube channel, whatever it is, I think really concretely about like what it is that you're delivering, because it's a really useful exercise in thinking about like, okay, what do I actually want to make here? What's the level of input I have? What's my USP? And how do I make it something that fits into my routine? So a little bit of advice there. I say with my fucking 160 subscribers, like, yeah, I mean, obviously take it with a pinch of salt, but I do think what I'm basically saying is what they said, which is very helpful advice. Go watch their podcast, that was really good. And from all of that, right, from this problem selection and knowing the content plan, I was like, okay, now how can I get my research funded as someone who doesn't want to be in academia? And so I started thinking more concretely about like, how can I get non-dilutive grants? How can I get grants, like people to fund me without taking away any IP, any part of my company? I don't have a company yet, but any IP that I have, and to just let me work on research. So I started thinking more concretely about building up this patchwork of grants, right? Like looking at venture firms who, you know, their standard thing is they'll invest in companies and take equity, but some venture firms, especially those on the research side, might do some like very small grants, non-dilutive grants for people. Like we're talking at most like 5k, but usually around like 1 to 2k. A little thing like that, you know. I'm living at home at the moment. If I move out, that could fund like a month of rent for me in London. Those little things. So I've looked at a few venture firms, I've looked at family foundations in the philanthropic space, and then I've looked at like other broader governmental non-dilutive funding. And so trying to build up a patchwork of that right now, stuff that could fund my research, maybe also my content. Basically the reason that I'm doing this as well, right, is I want to still be doing some research on the side. And before I commit to the company thing full time, just make sure that I've kind of satisfied my research itch of these problems I was working on. And you know what, maybe even these grants kind of de-risk my idea for when I eventually go start the company. So let's see. I'm working on it right now. 0 for 3 on the grants I've applied to so far, but that's the game. Applied to another one the other day, gonna keep applying. Fingers crossed, let's hope. And hopefully I've got a better update for you in the next one. Let's see. Okay, until next time, thank you for watching.